Our title for this month is Bumps Ahead. And as I looked at the landscape out there, it was looking pretty bumpy. So I thought that this might be a good topic for today. Uh, just quick glance at where we are with the pandemic. You can see that, with just 11 months into the year, we've more than doubled the number of infections, and the 312.3 million that was reported in January of this year was everyone that had been reported up to that point in time. So that's going back to 2020 through the beginning of 2022. And we've more than doubled that this year. There have been over 8 billion injections of different vaccines to slow the process. Now, it may not have had a big impact on how many people got infected, but it has certainly impacted the number of people who have died. As you can see, you got 5.5 million in January of this year, and it's only gone up 1.6 million. Now, these are global numbers. These are not US numbers. So there's, a pretty good chance that people are doing better at living through this. Some of us who have had all of our shots, all of our boosters, got the flu shot, doing all of that, people say, well, are you overreacting? And so I thought I would put this one in next. How are we doing? Here in El Paso, the current status is low. We're in reasonably good shape. However, the average number of new cases per day is 173. So that's more than 1,200 per week, new cases. That's up 153% over 2 weeks ago, which says we were down somewhere around 60, 65 cases a day, and now we're at 173. So the question then is this just a momentary spike, or is this the beginning of the winter trend, or COVID? How's this? So we're going to have to watch the numbers over the next couple of weeks and see, does this trend continue, and does the increase and the percentage of increase continue? I doubt it'll stay at 153%, but is it going to continue to increase at 60% or 70%? Still a very steep climb. So we'll have to watch the numbers. The good news is that there have been no new deaths. People are going in, they're going into the emergency room, they're getting into intensive care, but there are so many drugs that are out there now that you can take once you get infected that mitigate the disease itself, that death is becoming more and more rare. And that really is good news. That puts us way far ahead of where we were in March of 2020. The other thing that we're watching is the RSV infections. The number of infections is still going up, and this is primarily in children, but it also impacts people of my demographic, because as we get older, we have less resistance, and we hang out with our grandkids, and I expect to hang out with my grandkids tomorrow. So that's why I got all my shots. I got all my shots, so I'm good. So right now things are better than they were last year, but it isn't. We're not quite ready to rejoice yet. Let's see what happens with that daily average of new cases, and how, does it get back up to 1,000 a day? We were a little above that at one point. The big question, and this was asked by one of last month's people, what's happening? What's a recession, and what's the impact? Because I don't understand it. Well, a recession is defined economically as a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, and it's generally identified by a fall in the GDP in 2 successive quarters. In other words, if you have Q1 and Q2 that are lower than Q4 of the previous year, and that's a technical recession. So you can see with the data right there, the GDP for the US for 2022, we started off the fiscal year with Q4 of 2021, and then we had a reduction in GDP in Q1 and another reduction in Q2. In Q3, everybody was expecting it to continue the downward slide, but it went up 2.6. So it erased the losses, and actually we're a little bit advanced over where we were in Q4. So what's up? Where are we going with this? And how important is it in our lives? So we don't know what's going to happen in Q4 precisely, but the outlook right now is that Q4 of the calendar year is going to be a fairly robust quarter with Thanksgiving. If you've been near the stores, Black Friday started early with a lot of the stores. The parking lots and the malls have been pretty full, and that's not just here in El Paso. I mean, if you look around the country, consumer spending is still pretty high. So you got the 3 big holidays right in a row: Thanksgiving, my birthday, and Christmas. I just put my birthday in there because I just wanted you to know that if you have presents and you want to send them to me, feel free. Actually, my birthday present this year, for those of you who don't know, they are running the Internacional 10K on the 10th of December. And my brother's birthday is the 9th of December and mine is the 11th of December. So he refuses to run anymore. He says he's too old for that. He's younger than I am, but I'm going to go with daughter Debbie and 2 of her children. So we're going to have 3 generations in the race. But back to recessions and technical recessions. We've got a lot of consumer spending. Now, this is good news from the point of view that it'll probably improve our GDP again, because people will be making products and selling products. But it also could likely mean that the Fed is going to increase interest rates again, because they're looking for the economy to slow down. They're actually looking for a technical recession or even an extended recession, not a huge percentages, but they want to see the marketplace slow down a little bit, because they feel that it's running too fast. So then the question is, well, what's the impact of this? If we're in a recession, how does that affect us? Well, let me ask, have you changed your plans for Christmas? I've talked to several different groups of people in El Paso and in other parts of the country, and many of them are saying, we're planning on traveling, we're planning on going, we're going to join family. Yeah, we're buying presents, we're out shopping, we're looking for gifts, and we're trying to get stuff that's on sale, because we can, get more product for the money you're spending. So they haven't changed their plans. So it hasn't had an impact. But what about your employees, the people who work for you, and how are they doing? Are they feeling the pinch? Because those of us who are doing okay financially, we live at a level that we can afford to go to the grocery store and we can afford to buy what we want at the grocery store. But there's a whole level of employees who, single parent families and families that have a lot of kids, and are they feeling it? are they feeling the press? Talking to the folks at El Pasoans Fighting Hunger, and they're expecting a huge need this year. We, the Apex chapter, have given a gift to them. We do that every year, but we've given them a considerably larger gift. We doubled our gift this year because we want to make sure that they've got what they need to continue to reach out and feed the people that can't afford to buy food. The greatest impact of this recession is going to be felt in the marginal areas with people who are needy, that are already on the edge economically. They're going to feel the pinch because prices will continue to go up for a while yet. Their income isn't going to go up as fast, and so they're going to have to make some choices on what they can buy and what they can't buy. So what about your work? How is this going to impact you? Major corporations in established supply chains will see some slight reductions in demand. The retail companies, they're sort of living off of the inventory that they built last year, and they're not as robust in building more inventory this year. You may remember we were talking about the weeks that ships were at anchor waiting to come in and unload. And that was the Christmas stuff for the last Christmas that didn't make it onto the shelf. Well, it's made it onto the shelf and it's getting bought out. And so that aspect is still there. The auto industry has slowed down because of the chips. And so that's had an impact, but I don't see it slowing any more than that. People are still buying cars. You drive the streets, you can see a whole lot of temporary plates out there. So that's still going. Housing's here in El Paso, the housing market has seen their inventory of unsold houses grow a bit, but it's nowhere near normal. It's still very low. So it looks like we're not gonna get impacted that much. But if you're in a tech company or a startup, you may have a harder time. Cash may be tight, and so if you don't have cash in hand, cash is king. If you ever talk to your accounting department, they'll tell you cash is king. And if you don't have cash on hand to pay your bills, that makes it tough. On that note, we saw one of the big crypto groups crash and burn in the last couple of weeks. And people are beginning to come around to the fact that, gee, having money in crypto isn't as much fun when the bottom has fallen out of it. And all of a sudden, the money I was expecting to have for my retirement has just melted away. So tech company startups may have a harder time moving forward in Q1 of next year, simply because if money gets tight, they may not be able to grow as quickly as they want, or they may in fact find that they have problems paying back their bills. Moving on, last month and ongoing, we talked about the longshoremen and the ports negotiating a new contract, and the whole issue around automation, meaning fewer jobs. Those negotiations are still ongoing. And I have an update on the ports here in a little bit. Hang with me. But they're trying to protect jobs, but the automation is absolutely necessary. When you're unloading 24,000 TEU type ships, and that's 60 some miles of containers. You're not going to be able to do that one at a time by a guy running a crane. you have to have some automation to make that process move. But then the other part of that was the rail people. If you remember, the president signed an emergency order, it's now 3 months ago, to keep the rail workers from going out on strike. Their contract had come to an end. He put an emergency stay in place so that they couldn't go on strike. And here we are. The rail workers voted. They want to go on strike. Well, not all. There are two unions. One union said, yes, we want to go out on strike. And the other one said, no, we're satisfied with the contract. So now what happens? You've got 1 out of 2 that's rejected the contract. Now, the rail lines and all of the equipment are owned by the railroad companies. The workers are members of 2 different unions. And so the problem is going to become if one union is working and the other union is not, is the union that is not working going to start causing trouble for the trains that are running by the union that is working? And this has happened in the past, and it has gotten really ugly. So there's, this is up in the air, and it's going to get resolved. If you cut to the bottom of the slide, this whole thing comes to a head December 5th. That's the end date of the current deal. And so at that point, if the union that wants to go on strike decides to go on strike, then that's going to be a whole new area, and that's going to be a whole new problem for freight here in the US. Getting freight from the docks into the country and distributed across the country, more than 65% of that freight goes by train. And so that would be a huge impact. And if the union that said, we don't want to go on strike, will accept the contract, they may not work, even though they've got a contract and they're not on strike. They may decide that it's in their best interest to just sit this one out and wait for the other union to get to a point where they sign a contract. That's one alternative. It could also be that the president will step in again, or Congress will take some action and they will force them back to work. So we'll have to wait and see how that all is going to shake out. But it's going to shake out in the next couple of weeks. So we don't have a whole long time to wait. So then the other question is, well, do they want to be out over Christmas? Do they want to be on strike and walking picket lines on Christmas Day? Or do they want to, this is a negotiating ploy, and they're going to come back and vote the contract in? Don't know. Won't find out until the 5th. But if you've got freight coming in, you may want to look now at alternate moving methods to get it away from the dock and get it delivered. You may want to look to trucking and see what they've got. Talk to your rail connections if you're using rail, and find out what they think, because you don't want your stuff on a train stopped somewhere between here and Tucson, because once the train stops, that stuff isn't coming off the train until this gets resolved. So you're going to have a lot of in-transit materials that aren't going to make it to your inventory. One of the folks last month asked, how do we manage supplier capacity? And so it's an interesting question, and one that a lot of us have had to deal with over time. But there are some questions, because the way we deal with this is different depending on what's going on. So the first question is, do you own the tooling or do they? If you own the tooling and you have it in a supplier shop because they have an injection molding machine that can run your molds, and they're molding using your tool, what's your current agreement for output? Do you have an agreement in place that says this is going to be good for 100,000 shots, and then it needs to be cleaned, and then another 100,000, and we're going to run the tool 16 hours a day, and here's your output for 16 hours a day. Is that what your current agreement is, or are they just molding as needed to meet your releases on a blanket order? If it's the first, then go back and review that with them. If it's the second, have the conversation around your blanket order and how much more could you get from them. Second question is, what's the condition of the tooling? How old is the tooling? How many shots have gone through the tool? Has it been reconditioned? Has it been maintained? What's that condition like? And are there problems running it in the current state? Then, do they have more available capacity to run your parts? Do they have machines that are sitting open? You have more than one mold set, and they could run more than one? Or are they limiting it because they have all of their machines full and they're keeping one machine set up to run your parts? Then how much more will it cost to add overtime or an extra shift if you need more parts than they're currently producing? And that becomes an avenue that needs to be discussed. Is there going to be increased cost to you, or are they going to do that as part of their current contract? So that's if you own the tooling. If they own the tooling, what percentage of their output are you buying? What's the total capacity of that tool, and how much of that output are you buying? Are you 50% or more, or are you a 5% of their capacity? And do they have more available capacity to sell? They're sitting there, they've got a machine, they've got a tool. How much more do they have that they can sell? Do they have excess material? And do they have the capability of running more than one set of tools at a time? Do they have multiple machines that could run these tools so that they could run more than one and increase their output? And then another question that you need to consider is, are we talking short-term or longer-term needs? If we're talking short-term, you may want to just pay more, let them work overtime, get this larger quantity that you need to satisfy one of your customer orders, and just work out the terms so that you pay a little bit more for the extra material, but you get it in the short term. If you're looking for longer term needs, then sit down and have a discussion, because what you really want to do is buy more capacity, not more parts, but more capacity and more capability to build parts for you so that you have better control and more product to put to the market. I like this. You sent to ship where? Remember, if we go back just a couple of months, Long Beach and Los Angeles were red. And people were saying, well, you need to think about, taking your ship through the canal and bringing it up in the Atlantic and coming in on some of the Atlantic ports. And so here we have Baltimore. Baltimore is in that 3 to 7 day category. Miami is in the 3 to 7, and Montreal, if you're going down the seaway into Montreal, they're at 7 days before you can get to a dock and start unloading. you see that Long Beach and LA are less than a day. You want to come in, you want to tie up, no problem, come on in. And Houston, Oakland, Savannah, and Vancouver are more than 7 days. So one of the things that we in transportation have to stay aware of is where are the hangups today, and where are the hangups likely to be next week or the week after that. When is our ship coming in, or when is it sailing, and what's the destination, and what's the condition going to be like? And we just talked about what's going on with the trains. Well, that's one of those. Start working, if you haven't already started working with your transportation people. Start working and making sure that you're not planning on putting too much on trains, and you want to get anything you can off of trains before December 5th. If it doesn't go south, if everything works out and there's no stoppage, okay, you might have a couple of trailer loads coming in by truck that, they'll get there a little earlier, but they'll be a little more expensive. But that's better than if it does go south and it stops and you can't get your goods off the train. There you go. So these greens and yellows and reds are going to change if the trains stop running, because it's going to back up and it's going to impact all of these ports as well. So think about that as you're getting ready to go to work next week. It's going to be an issue. Now, someone else had asked, what do we do about foreign transportation, and how do we're buying products in faraway markets, and we get the stuff that comes in by ship, but how does it get to the ship? How do we make that happen? And one of my suggestions is this is a great place to engage a 3PL, a third-party logistics company that has international holdings and works in the international marketplaces, because they have a much better understanding of what it's going to take. If you're moving freight from Kazakhstan, I can tell you from my perspective, having tried to move freight out of Kazakhstan at one time in my career, it's extremely frustrating. They have improved the situation. They do actually have an airport that flies jets in and out, and DHL does go there now. So that's a real improvement. But with a 3PL that works in the international areas, you can assign your international freight through a 3PL and let them manage that for you. It's a lot less heartburn and a lot less time spent looking at screens on and trying to figure out, geez, if I put it on this train, when's it going to get to Marseille, and when would it get loaded, and when could I get it? Let someone else do that. One of the reasons we make money is so we don't have to do the stuff we don't want to do. And as a company and as an employee of a company, spend the company's money well. You don't want to have to get involved with that. Hire someone that gets paid to do that and has a much better opportunity to do it and do it well. So don't try this at home. Take it to the 3PL and let them deal with it. You've got wars going on. You've got fuel shortages going on. You've got erratic pricing shifts. All of that is happening, and it's really, really confusing. This is a great time to have a good relationship with a 3PL. We wanted to give special recognition to Antonio Avalos, to Cesar Reyes, and Francisco Romo. Congratulations to the three of you for getting your certification. Antonio and Cesar got theirs in October, and Francisco just got his in November. We've got another group of people getting ready to take exams, and we expect to have some more recognitions for them as we go forward. Just a couple of other quick things. Someone asked before today's meeting, is just-in-time an affordable tool? Absolutely. It makes you money. So yeah, it's eminently affordable. It's a subtractive or reductive logic. It is not an additive logic. So you don't have to go out and buy machines. You might have to buy some paint. You might have to buy some whiteboards, but you're going to make a whole lot more money as you get closer and closer to just-in-time or lean. So yeah, absolutely. Whatever the short-term costs are, you're going to make it back very, very quickly in waste reduction. Because remember, lean is about establishing flow and reducing the waste. And that's everything you need to know about lean. And then there was another said, what's the difference here, master planning versus master production scheduling? We have a really good course that covers that. Here's my advertising, put my advertising hat on. We have a really good course that covers that. CPIM Part 1 will cover that. Or if you want, you can take CPIM Part 2 and get into the nuts and bolts at a very detailed level. Thank you so much. All of you have a great Thanksgiving. I just hope that when you sit at the table, it's surrounded by people that love you and people that you love. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You too, Chet.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Chet.
You too as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.